any alcohol increases the risk of 7 different kinds of cancer.
Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast with Joe De Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Race.
We are talking about overcoming obstacles. The same way we teach people to get over obstacles on the course, we will teach you here on the Spartan Up podcast to get over obstacles in your mind.
This episode of Spartan Up is presented by Mud Gear. When battling brutal Spartan obstacles over a mixture of muddy miles and tough terrain, starting off on the right foot means any foot protected by the lasting comfort and proven durability of Mud Gear socks, made right here in the USA. Gear up today at mudgear.com to thrive in your next race.
Joe De Sena here, CEO and founder of Spartan and the Spartan Up podcast. I got Dr. Daniel Amen. This is an unbelievable podcast. Most of the time, I'm talking to and about and with people that are on, physical fitness is their focus, diet is their focus. We've got the brain doctor, Dr. Daniel Amen, on 12 best-selling books, 11 brain health clinics. This guy is a machine when it comes to optimizing brain health. Doc, thanks for joining us.
Joe, what a pleasure. Thanks for helping me spread the word of it's not mental illness, it's brain health.
This is incredible. So when did this start for you? Like, why did you get into this?
So when I was a second-year medical student, someone I loved tried to kill herself. And I took her to see a wonderful psychiatrist. And I came to realize if he helped her, it wouldn't just help her, that ultimately it would help her children and even her grandchildren, as they would be shaped by someone who was happier and more stable. So about 44 years ago, I decided to be a psychiatrist, but I joined the only medical specialty that never looks at the organ it treats. And I thought that was wrong, and I knew it would change. I just had no idea I'd be part of the change. But about 33 years ago, I started looking at the brain with a study called SPECT imaging. And now we have the world's largest database of brain scans related to behavior, over 225,000 scans on people from 155 countries. And what the scans taught me is that most psychiatric illnesses are not mental health issues. They're brain health issues. And if people work to get their brain right, their mind is so much better. And so that's the mission of my life, is to end the concept of mental illness and create a revolution in brain health.
But is it realistic, Doc, to think we could work the brain out or feed the brain the way we do the bicep in the gym or our stomach at night at dinner? Like, is that I think it's hard to wrap your head around that.
Well, not for me. I mean, clearly every day your brain is getting younger, healthier, or it's getting older. And a lot of it depends on your everyday habits. So if you eat like crap, you're going to think like crap. If you spend your time with your nose in a gadget, you're going to wear out your dopamine circuits and you're going to feel flat. You can make your brain better, and I can prove it. I did the big NFL study. When the NFL was lying, it had a problem with traumatic brain injury in football. We've scanned and treated 350 NFL players. I mean, like cool players like Dick Butkus. High levels of damage. Stop lying about it. 80% of our players get better when we put them on a healthy brain rehabilitation program.
It's hard. It's hard to grasp, I guess, if you're just a normal person and haven't done the work like you have over 40 years. Like, you just don't see it, right? We go in and we get a pump doing curls, or we feel good eating a salad and not eating pizza. But is it really, eating this salmon or whatever it is, and we'll get into what your methodology is it really working?
Well, I see it every day. I mean, I have thousands of before and after scans on how when you do the right thing, your brain gets healthier. And, it makes perfect sense, right? I mean, if you go out drinking tonight, your brain's not going to be working as well tomorrow if you rely on Xanax or Valium to manage your anxiety. You're not going to be as sharp. Some of the controversial areas I get into is marijuana is not good medicine. It decreases blood flow to your brain. I have a mnemonic I use that might be helpful for us. It's called Bright Minds. You want to keep your brain healthy or rescue it. You have to prevent or treat the 11 major risk factors that steal your mind. So Bright Minds is the acronym. So B is for blood flow. Low blood flow, number one brain imaging predictor of Alzheimer's disease. So if you exercise, you tend to have better blood flow to your brain. If you're not overweight, you tend to have better blood flow to your brain. If you're eating in a healthy way, so think beets, cayenne pepper, rosemary, oregano, cinnamon, all things that increase blood flow to the brain. And for each of these risk factors, it's like, okay, what contributes to it and what decreases that risk factor? And I always start with blood flow because your brain is 2% of your body's weight, but uses 20% of the blood flow. So whatever's good for your heart is good for your brain.
I love this. You and I are so aligned, although I don't have any experience or the knowledge you do. I used to clean swimming pools as a kid, and I had 700 customers. And so you could imagine for a decade looking at all these pools and cleaning the filters and making sure the pump was running and keeping them clean. And because I was a health nut, because I liked working out, I kept thinking, gee, the human body's kind of like a swimming pool. I mean, it's got a pump, it's got some filters, it's mostly water. And if I took this 20,000 gallon swimming pool and I was to throw French fries in it and coffee and burgers and ice cream and then all of a sudden shut the pump off, it would probably turn green pretty quickly. And then I started thinking, well, shit, if the human body, the human swimming pool was green and your brain is living in that green fluid, it probably doesn't work well. Like, that's just the way I was thinking about it.
I love that analogy. I mean, it's just perfect. And what I often tell my patients is if you had a $10 million racehorse, would you ever feed it junk food? Only if you were an idiot, or if you had a Ferrari and you put crap in the gas tank, right? You wouldn't do that. But you are worth so much more, but people don't think about what they put in their bodies. And we live in a society, during the pandemic, America had 4% of the world's population, but 16% of the world's COVID deaths. Why? Because we're flat out unhealthy. And you didn't hear much about, come on, got to get healthy as a group. They isolated us and just did the wrong things. We can do so much better.
Doc, I also argue, don't agree with me, push back, please. But like, I don't think we can do it. I don't think we will do it on our own. I mean, as much of a health freak as I try to be, and I try to, influence my family, I came home and my little daughter was baking cookies last night at 9 o'clock in the house. And so, anybody listening would say, well, a cookie here and there is okay. And it's like, well, she's a $10 million racehorse. And so is everybody else in the family. Why would we feed them cookies? So I would argue, Doc, and everybody's going to hate this, we gotta like tax all that. We got to make it harder, like we did cigarettes. Is that a good way to think about it? Because we just we're just not listening.
We're not listening. And when Mayor Bloomberg tried to do this in New York, there was such a backlash. But I thought it was brilliant, because if you're unhealthy, everybody pays for that. And in countries where there's socialized medicine, like Canada and Great Britain, the government comes down much harder on sugar and artificial dyes and sweeteners and adding hormones and antibiotics to animals than it does where in America we pay uh, individually, but clearly as a society for illness. So individuals in the United States pay for the illness they have, but ultimately we are just one of the sickest societies on earth. I'm hopeful, though. I did a program with Pastor Rick Warren called the Daniel Plan, and ultimately thousands of churches around the world did our program. And when people got better as a group, they um, doubled their weight loss. And so with your daughter, what I would say, I have 6 children, and some of them listen and some of them don't. But ultimately, my job is to model the message. My job is to do the right things for me, and then not to contribute any money for bad food. It's like, no, I don't buy alcohol. No, I'm not buying sugar. I'm not buying frozen pizzas. You want to do that? That's on you.
No, I'm with you. We have a giant community globally across 45 countries. And every day I argue to people, not to sound self-serving, but I argue like when you have a date on the calendar, when you have a race coming up that you're committed to, and you don't want to be embarrassed about, and you want to actually finish, you tend to eat less cookies. You tend to go to bed early. You tend to put down the wine. The same way a student might study when they know they have a test coming. So, so for me personally, and for our community, it's like that's my trigger to get people. I just had a friend find out he had cancer, and it's really awful. And when I think about our great relationship, me and my buddy, he would argue with me over this stuff, that you also have to have fun. You can't constantly be that strict, Joe. You have to, and you never know, right, Doc? I mean, you tell me otherwise, but you never know if, there's lots of people that live to 95 years old, smoking cigarettes, eating bacon, and not being healthy, right? Like there's anomalies.
But it's not common. Although
Not common.
I read something in CNN today where Nancy Pelosi every day for lunch has a hot dog. I'm like, that is so not good. But I want to tackle this: who has more fun, the kid with the good brain or the kid with the bad brain? I have a high school course called Brain Thrive by 25. And we teach high school students to love and care for their brain. And after the lesson, brain health is 3 things: brain envy, got to care about it. Freud was wrong. Penis envy is not the cause of anybody's problem. Brain envy, got to care about it. Avoid things that hurt it, do things that help it. I mean, that's sort of the take home message. When we do the lesson on things to avoid, invariably it's always a boy. It's never a girl. It's always like a 14-year-old boy who raises his hand and go, how can you have any fun? So we play a game with the kids called Who Has More Fun? The kid with the good brain or the kid with the bad brain? Who gets the girl and gets to keep her because he's not an ass? The kid with the good brain or the kid with the bad brain? Who gets into the college they want to get into? Who gets the best jobs, makes the most money, has the deepest sense of meaning and purpose? I'm 69, and what do I want? I want energy. I want clarity. I want good decision making. I want good blood flow. What is it that I really want? And quite frankly, French fries and ice cream, alcohol, they don't fit any of the things I want. And when you get people to really sit with, what do you want? They don't say curly fries. That's But yet, because they've had bad habits for so long, their brain wants curly fries.
Mudgear started equipping Spartans over 10 years ago, and since then, they've perfected the art of protecting your most valuable race day assets. From the way they fit, to the way they wick and drain moisture, to their strategic cushioning and venting, Mudgear socks are a must for any Spartan hoping to not just survive, but dominate the course. Endure longer and race stronger with Mudgear socks that are made tougher, just like you. Shop Mudgear at the Spartan store, at your next Spartan race, or right now at mudgear.com.
This is my daughter calling randomly right now. Let's get her in. Hold on. Alex, are you on the phone, Alex?
What?
Are you on the phone? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
I'm with a doctor right now, and we're talking about brain health and how cookies and hot dogs.
Wait, someone's calling me. Bye. Give me a second.
So much for that. I got. Are you back? I think it'd be great to ask. She's 10 years old, Doc, and it would be great to ask the question, because my question to you is, if eating healthy, if sweating every day, you haven't said this, but I assume if taking the cold shower, if those things make the brain healthier, give you more blood flow, more clarity, et cetera, and those are the things we want, then why the are we going after the fry? Why is our brain making the French fry attractive?
Because we're bowing to the marketers. We're bowing to, Carl's Jr. when they had, the half-naked girls eating their cheeseburgers. And we're like, oh, if I eat this cheeseburger and fries, she's going to want me. She's actually not going to want you, right? But it's this constant stream of marketing and then giving into it in bad habits that create these cravings for things that actually make you feel like crap. And a game I want you to start playing with your daughter is, I called it Chloe's game. Chloe's my 19-year-old since time she was 2. All right, Chloe, is this good for your brain or bad for it? And if I would say frozen blueberries, she'd go 2 thumbs up, God's candy. If they're organic, right? Over time, she learned berries need to be organic. Or if I said avocados, she'd say 2 thumbs up, God's butter. And if I said cookies, she'd go, no, way too much sugar, bad for your brain. Or if I said, how about playing football? And she'd roll her eyes and go, are you insane? The brain is soft, the skull is hard, right? So if you teach her to love her brain, and we took Chloe on a hike once, and at the end of the hike, it was really strenuous. She was 7. And her mother said, you're a tough cookie. And she said, I don't want to be a tough cookie. I want to be a tough red bell pepper. And then, boom, you just know you're influencing her in the most loving way possible.
I love it. I love it, Doc. What would you suggest? Let's go through. You've hit a bunch of chords on things we promote. What would you suggest people do? Let's start. 6 a.m. Somebody wakes up. What's an optimal day look like for the brain?
When your feet hit the floor, go, today is going to be a great day. Our minds are undisciplined and they need to be trained. And so if you start with, today is going to be a great day, you're going to look forward to something. And then hydrate. Hydration is just critical to the brain. Whatever decision you make during the day, is this good for my brain or bad for it? That's the mother tiny habit. I spend time with my wife, and then my first work huddle is at 8:30. I'm actually doing it while I'm walking or while I'm riding a stationary bike. So exercise early is critical. If you finish every shower with turn it all the way cold, now I've come to realize it's very different if you live in the Northeast versus if you have a home in Florida. Because when I turn it all the way cold in my home in Florida, it's not that cold. But just getting your neurotransmitters balanced, getting blood flow, absolutely critical. But my favorite daily habit is when I put myself to bed at night, I say a prayer and then I go, what went well today? And I start at the beginning of the day and I go on a treasure hunt of all the cool things that happened. And what I'm doing is I'm reversing thousands of years of evolution where we evolved being afraid because that was protective, right? If you woke up in a panic, you're less likely to be eaten by a tiger. And now people wake up in fear because of something that was useful 20,000 years ago. You have to train your mind to look for what's right rather than what's wrong. And your level of happiness will go up in just 3 weeks if you do that.
What time are we going to bed? What time are we waking up?
So I go to bed about 9:30. I get up about 6. I think when you sleep, and a lot of people don't know this, but your brain washes itself. Actually, a whole fluid system opens up in the brain, helps clean up the trash that built up during the day. So making sleep a priority is cool. I mean, you have to ask yourself, why did Tom Brady play for, over 20 years in the NFL? Why was he a star at 45 years old? Well, if you read his book, TB12, he does everything else right except playing football. Football's obviously a brain damaging sport, but he goes to bed at 9 o'clock. He doesn't eat any crap. He, really withholds things like alcohol. Why? Because it's good for his brain.
No, I love it. What kind of food are we eating? Optimal food. We're on a desert island. We've got to keep our brain healthy until somebody finds us. What's the optimal food look like?
So it's a lot of dark green plants with healthy fat like avocados. Hopefully you have a macadamia nut tree and you're good at fishing.
A lot of fish.
Yeah, so it's a low carb, high plant, high fat diet. That's what's best for the brain. Your brain, the 60% of the solid weight of your brain is fat. And so I'm not a fan at all of low fat diets. And then if you take the statistic that 50%, 50% of people are diabetic or pre-diabetic, diabetes is a major cause of dementia. It's like, oh no, I need to really be careful. There's a study at the Mayo Clinic where they looked at people who had a fat-based diet, nuts and seeds, avocados, healthy oils, fish, 42% less risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. But people who had a simple carbohydrate-based diet, bread, pasta, potatoes, rice, fruit juice, sugar, a 400% increased risk of getting Alzheimer's disease.
All right, Doc, I know what your answer is. Everybody knows what your answer is, but they don't want to believe it. They don't want to hear it. Alcohol and marijuana. Should we have a little bit? Is a lot okay? Or should we have none?
The American Cancer Society, that has no dog in the fight except to prevent cancer, came out against any alcohol. Any alcohol increases the risk of 7 different kinds of cancer. And when people go, how can I have any fun? I guarantee you people have had cancer. It's not been any fun. Plus, any alcohol has been shown to disrupt white matter in the brain. What is white matter? Well, gray matter, or brain cell bodies, it's where a lot of the processing happens in the brain. White matter are brain cell tracts that help you communicate. So it's sort of like the highways in Los Angeles. They need repair. You do not want to be drinking a disinfectant that's addictive, that damages virtually every organ in your body, especially your relationships. So I'm not a fan. at all of alcohol. And marijuana, you know, I don't have a dog in the fight, except I published a study on 1,000 marijuana users. Every area of their brain was lower in activity and blood flow. It prematurely ages the brain. But in society, as the idea that marijuana is good for you, teenagers are using it in record numbers. It's 10 times more potent than when I was a teenager. And if you use as a teenager, you have a higher incidence of psychosis, 450%. You have a higher incidence of anxiety, depression, and suicide. And the idea that marijuana is innocuous is a stunning lie that, you know, you just have to see the brains I see and you go, ooh, your brain looks older than you are.
Wow. Wow. Well, Doc, this is exactly the stuff we believe in. I'd love to have you one day at a race where you could just talk to like 7,000 people at once. You're down in Florida now, I assume, for the winter?
So no, I go between Newport Beach, California, where I live most of the time, but we also have a home in South Florida.
If you remember and you come down to Florida, let me know. I'll bring 7,000 friends over to your house, and we could do a quick little brain health talk. You're amazing. How do people find you? Aside from the 12 New York Times best-selling books, is there an easier way?
AmenClinics.com. So Amen, like the last word in a prayer, clinics.com. They can find me on Instagram at doc_Amen, AMEN. TikTok, which is insane how fast that grew. I'm everywhere.
Awesome.
When battling brutal Spartan obstacles over a mixture of muddy miles and tough terrain, starting off on the right foot means any foot protected by the lasting comfort and proven durability of Mudgear socks, made right here in the USA. Gear up today at mudgear.com to thrive in your next race.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Spartan Up Podcast.